Okay, I have seen it and more than once, and I am ready to talk about it. So, vamos. In the more generic aspect of it, I think it's fine. I thought it was a very nice movie. It was fun, it had its moments. I think it is nice as an introduction to Colombian culture, absolutely. But I wouldn't say it is the best movie ever. I mean, the bar in terms of talking about Colombia is not very high. So just the fact that they don't just focus on the terrible aspects, but they show way more things that are very interesting and very fun. That's okay. And if you have a few minutes to spare, sure, it's a nice movie. There is no specific zone that they talk about, however, they refer to it as the country in general. But I would argue that they are mainly based on the zone closer to the coast. Here's an interesting thing about cultures. In every culture around the world, the people in it does things that are certain actions and sequences of actions that are connected also to objects that make sense for that culture and for the people that grew up in that culture. This is a universal thing, so it is normal that when someone sees something, has an automatic reaction. Sometimes we don't even realize we do this, but we do, basically all the time. For example, when I see a ruana, my first thought is it's cold. And when I see a sombrero volteado and certain attire, I think, ooh, it's warm, it's hot. Now, I know where that comes from, and I also know that the movie obviously is going to take the things that finds more interesting and that make sense for the narrative of the movie. But it is normal that my first reaction is to be like, ooh, something's off. I have spoken with other Colombian people that have seen the movie, and for many of them, it's like, nah. I do know that in some cases it's because of this. It's like, yeah, okay, I get it, it's about Colombia, but yeah, it doesn't really touch as much. But you also have people that were very touched by this movie. So, as with anything, I guess, it also depends on each person. Of course, I could sit here and be very picky and say, well, technically speaking, this doesn't belong here and we don't do this. And yeah, I could, but I don't want to do that. There are a lot of very nice things that I could absolutely point out. I have already done that in the reaction for the trailer, and I would love to do that more about Colombia, but in the future, right now, just focusing on the movie, it is what it is and it's fine. I do think that themes like family and the importance of community are very much on point. Now, one can argue, I mean, community is a very universal thing, yes. However, Latin American culture is very fascinating when it comes to family. The movie itself makes kind of a joke of, oh, there's so many in the family. Even though, technically speaking, if you see the family tree, it's a very simple family tree. If I was to show you my family tree, it would be messy. But it's not just about that. Sure, you can just focus on the bloodline, so genetics, absolutely. But if you actually think about it, people marry twice. Sometimes people do something, they are not married, but they have kids. Sometimes they maybe are with someone that has kids, but they're not their own. A lot can happen. Not only that, in our mindset, if you're a friend and we have a lot of fun memories and we grew up together, it's just so normal that I meet your uncles, your grandfather, your cousins, and then you also meet the cousins of the cousins. So overall, when we talk about family, sure, we could absolutely focus just on the linear genetic thing. However, deep down inside, community for us means family, means everyone. A direct example of this is the fact that we celebrate something called novena, which are 9 days before the 24th, which is Christmas Eve. What we do is basically each day until the 24th, we visit someone's house and we read the passage of, the whole thing with Jesus. So each night you visit someone's house, you read this until the 24th, where we all get together, At midnight, we read the last passage, which is, Jesus being born. And then we open the presents and we party. And then we keep on having, parties and things until New Year's Eve. The reason why we can go to a lot of people's houses and why we have parties that have so many people in it is because we count all of it. Not just straight up relatives, but just people that are in some sort of way your family. Similar to the movie, there is also a lot of energy, there's a lot of passion. We do like music, we do like to celebrate and kind of make everything sometimes a bit too dramatic, perhaps. But it's more with the basis of let's chill, it's not that deep, let's just have a good time. Music is another important aspect of society in general. You find music all around the world, even from ages ago, and it is very important. And similar to certain objects, there are certain sounds of instruments, but also certain types of music that are way more connected to the environment, and so that make people go, oh, I recognize this without even realizing it, I am doing it, or it's something completely strange. I do understand that for the movie, they try to take references, of course, and you can actually see that, but at the same time, it is normal that they want to appeal to a wider audience. No, I'm no music expert, I just love music. So I want to talk a little bit about the moments of music that I thought they were very interesting and nice, and they're also very much connected with the narrative, given that after all, it is kind of a musical. The opening song and introduction is the Familia Madrigal. If you see this music video, it's on YouTube, you have a sense of what the movie is about. Not only do you have an introduction to the family, but you start to hear the drums, the accordion. You have a very basic sound of the music that we are used to. Waiting on a Miracle, it's what I guess should be the I Want song. Mirabel is the protagonist, and in this song she kind of talks about what she wants, what are her fears, and what are her desires. I do think it's a very dramatic song, and I thought it was nice actually. Now, I have a sneaky suspicion. Again, I am no expert, and this is just a suspicion, which is that I think they either use a tiple, which is a type of guitar, or a harp, basically. These are instruments that we use in our music quite a lot, and they are particular because they reach high notes, but I am no expert, and it could be just that a guitar, it's, focusing on the higher notes, but, I'm just saying. Surface Pressure is a bop. First of all, I really like the fact that they give this song to a very interesting character that they could have easily just put aside, but it is a very interesting song. I really like it. In this moment, you start to see the influence of a certain lip biter, if you wish. But again, I really do like it, and I also think the lyrics are very, very nice and very, again, telling of the story. We don't talk about Bruno. Has Tumblr on a chokehold? I already noticed that this is a song that people really, really like. I suppose it's because of the tango-ish with some aspects of pop. Again, I see the influence of certain Lin-Manuel Miranda. It is nice, I'm not gonna lie. I do like how everyone has their own part, and also a lot of their personality. It's shown in the way they sing and how they sing it. And at the end, everyone kind of is singing their own thing all at once, and it's a lot. And this piece in particular, this moment really reminds me of Hamilton, but I do believe that it's because it has to give the sense of kind of, oh, we're reaching a high moment, and it is all very confusing, so it makes sense for the narrative, I guess. What else can I do? I really like it, especially because I really like the fact that in this moment, we see a sibling relationship. We siblings, most of us, I don't think we apologize. And there's so many moments in movies when siblings have this moment of, oh, I'm sorry that I hurt you. I love you. I can relate, honestly, that in me. We usually kind of, it's like share a funny meme, or we just laugh at something and we show that we're cool again. Or in the case of the movie and the song in particular, is that yes, there is a fight, but during the moment of need, during a moment in which clearly, someone needs the help, the sibling is there to help. So I really thought that was more telling of how sibling relationships actually work. Dos oruguitas. Now this is interesting. So orugas means caterpillar. If you do plural, is orugas, and if you do the diminutive, it's oruguitas. Similar to casa casita, we use the diminutive to in case something that is very dear to us. It usually correlates with someone that is very dear to you. You can use a name and add that ito or ita at the end to showcase that, again, you love them or that they're very dear to you. In this case, the song talks about basically the grandparents, Alma and Pedro, that when they meet, they fall in love during the Dia de las Velitas, which is the 7th of December, during which we basically go out and turn on candles and we celebrate the beginning of Christmas. And during this moment, the song is showing us and telling us basically that they had to escape, and then the grandfather Pedro died trying to save the wife and the kids, and after this is how the family gains the magic. And of course it makes sense, then the caterpillars become a butterfly, and the butterfly is one of the symbols of the magic and the family. Now I like this song because I also think it's very interesting how it starts kind of slow, it builds up, then it stops again, and then builds up again into the final moment in which also the lyrics kind of change a bit to showcase the growth. And that is basically how the movie goes. So I think it was kind of a very interesting and fun thing actually. All of You is the last song when everyone comes together and a lot of the issues are basically resolved. It is a very musical-like, and again, it showcases the additions of someone. We have again all the choir adding up, not only the family members, but you also have the rest of the community. Everyone sings, everybody's happy, the conflict has been resolved, and happy. And on this note, I do want to say that musicals are not for everyone. I am more of a theater kid, and I do like musicals. I do enjoy these movies and these silly songs, but I do know and understand that not for everyone is like that. Some of the people that I talked about the movie are not fond of musicals, so the music, even if it recalls aspects of Colombia, doesn't make or break the thing. It's more like, nah, whatever. But I did like it, I'm not gonna lie. I do feel that the movie is able to showcase a more reality-based cast. I said this before in another video in regards to how varied Colombia is in reality, and even though, and I want to be very clear about this, things like race and what are you and the significance behind these words might be slightly different, and that is a whole conversation for another time. I do appreciate the fact that we have a more realistic view of what is actually in the country. And as with other movies from Disney, given also the budget and just the fact that that Disney, I do like the character design. I do think he's very nice. And if we take an example, just take Mirabel. She is a protagonist, but she's supposed to be normal. So you do have certain things that are not like so obvious about her. But at the same time, you have things like the glasses, the big hair, the type of dress, and the colors that makes her popped out a bit. The name Mirabel comes from the Latin mirabilis, which is marvelous, so Encanto. I did like the clothes also because, so if you see the family tree and the colors that she wears, her side of the family, like her mom and dad, are usually on the blue aspect. The sisters are on the pink, that is also connected with the grandma, but she also has in the skirt a lot of colors like yellow and orange and even green that represent the other members of the family. And there's also the detail of the butterflies in the shirt. But again, it's Disney, so this is kind of basic character design that I guess I just expect from them. I do, however, like the fact that you have more people that can cosplay or, have like a fun family costume moment with these characters. I do think that is Always, always important to have. Now, the magic system is not the clearest out there. We do see where does it come from, but the whole system itself and how exactly does it work, it's a bit messy, to be honest. Like I said, the family gets the powers after the grandfather dies, and this candle turns on and showcases the road, and it creates the zone and the house where everyone lives and it's okay. So grandma doesn't really have a power. She more than anything kind of controls and maintains the candle and organizes everything, which is also very interesting given that madrigal comes from Latin, which it's matriarchalis, which is from the mother. But again, she doesn't have a power. Now, she has triplets with Pedro, which is a magic trick on itself. And the kids later gain the powers, which are health by food, controlling the weather with their emotions, and seeing the future. I do think it's very fascinating the fact that these aspects are very important and are very useful for a community. Also interesting enough, Mirabel's mom is the one that has the health by food. Now, aid as well as food has always been kind of a typical mother-like action and something that they have always, even today, even though it's not necessary, it is still very much connected. We still have that strong connection between the motherly figure and the one who gives food and aids. Weather is also a make or break thing. A good weather can help everyone, and bad weather can F up absolutely everyone in the community and can be deadly. Seeing the future is another thing that you actually can find in many other cultures. And most times it is a very tricky thing because it is kind of like, oh, it is so useful to know what happens, what is going to happen, so we can be prepared. However, often not in literature, it usually flips up. Even in this case, the movie makes it a point that, you know, things happen and Bruno, who's the one who sees the future, kind of it's blamed for those things, even though he doesn't really have a say in those things. He just saw what's going to happen. All of those things would have probably happened anyway. Now, the third generation, so, you know, the youngest ones and the cousins, we have things like shape-shifting, talking to animals, listening to everything, super strength, and creating plants and flowers. These are things that I do think can help a community quite a lot, but it's just with this generation, and especially with Antonio, the youngest one, that we see his personality before having the power. The reason why I say this is because we don't really see the personality of the triplets of all the other kids before they get the powers. However, it could be indicative to say that the power is useful to the community, but also fits the personality of each person. Which brings me to the fact that Mirabel doesn't need an extreme power because her power, she already kind of has it. The magic is represented by the candle and the butterflies, both which are in a yellowish, so bright light. Now, I would like to add that I think, even though I'm not sure, that the yellow butterflies are a call out to Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who was a Colombian writer who he did a lot of things about magical literature, and he used the yellow butterflies in one of his books. So this could be a call out to him, but that's besides the point. So the light and the yellow butterflies are representative of light. And during Mirabel's song, she actually showcases a lot of light. So my basic theory is that while the grandma is trying to protect the light and trying to do everything to, you know, kind of contain it, Mirabel is using that light to see things, and she has that already. We can call it introspection maybe, that she has an ability, a particular ability to understand a little bit better the situation. And given that the base of the magic was to protect the people, not only, you know, Alma and the kids, but also everyone else that survived that conflict, then it makes sense that as time goes on, the magic itself kind of shifts and requires new things and a new vision. So Mirabel basically like her grandma, doesn't have a power because her whole thing is not about having a power per se, but about building up the new foundations for the family and so for the community. Now, not everything is an encanto, and not all situations can be solved by love. I grew up on these movies. By the time I was 7-ish, I had convinced myself that the way to happiness, what indicated that you were going to be happy for sure, for certain, was having a big house where you would grow up in and you could always go back and live the memories. A lovable pet, school and neighbor friends that are like siblings. I suppose a family that is always going to be there for you. By the time I was 16, I had been in 4 schools, 5 houses, some of which I will never be able to go back to. Family can be very messy. I had to give away a pet because, well, I was moving to another continent. Friends are hard to keep during long distance relationships, and not knowing a language also hinders on relationships. Who knew? Now another 10 years have passed by, and seeing this movie, I'm not denying that it really touched me, and there's a lot of things that really, really hit home. Yet at the same time, this is my video and I want to be honest because perhaps I feel that I would have liked to have someone been maybe a little bit more honest with me when I was younger. Granted, I was a child and a child can dream, but you know, sometimes just a little touch of honesty can actually help. And the thing is that one thing that that mentality that I had has in common is that it was a very extreme positive outcome of life in general. An outcome that clearly did not happen, and that life kept on trying to tell me, hey, that ain't it. And in a similar way, this movie, especially kind of certain aspects and the ending, it's not very relatable to me. I love my country and I am very happy and very glad to see it being talked about in positive ways. I talk about it in positive ways whenever I can. However, focusing just on the nice, preachy things can sometimes block the actual view of the situation and can hinder the potential growth. I have hopes for a better future, but I find that that lies in knowledge. And knowledge, it's of the good things and bad things. I do think there is a moment for focusing on the good things, and I do think there is a point to focus on the bad things. However, we often tend to see everything in binaries. You either have one or the other, when two things can be true at once. The mentality of a family and community-based society, it's very nice and very useful in many, many ways. The lack of interest in maybe genetics can allow for, you know, it doesn't matter where you come from. If we have a history, we like each other, if there is, you know, fraternity even, it's fine, you're family, that's enough. But there is a double-edged sword in family and that community base, which is that you either feed or you don't. If you feed because you have characteristics or points of view that are shared with the community, it's all good. If you don't, for whatever reason, then you have two possibilities. You either don't talk about those and just pretend for the rest of your life that everything's fine, or you live. And in a community-based society, living a family means being alone. And no one wants to be alone. In fact, many force themselves to not talk about those issues. You close an eye because it's family. It's fine. You just don't talk about it with your relative and it's all going to be fine. It would be lovely for me to sit here and say, yes, everyone wants to be better. Like Grandma Alma, she's not evil. She's just trying to help. So if we have a nice corazón to corazón talk, a nice convo, it's all going to be fine. That's simply not true. Similarly, there are many things that a country has that are not just for praise. I know I said that I like the fact that the movie focuses on the good things, and I stand by this. However, it reached a point in which it was a bit too much. Here's the thing. According to the wiki page, the conflict that the grandparents are running from, it's the late 1800s, during which there was a whole thing between political parties. Now in the movie we see that a group survives, the family included, and they find this place, and they, by the time of the movie, which is the 50s or 60s, everything's fine, and the conflict is more of an internal conflict. In regards to that other issue, who knows? And this is where it gets tricky, because that conflict that they're referring to was never actually resolved. It just developed into other things, but it remained as a conflict. All of these issues that are still present to this day. So, till this day, we have the desplazados, the people that have to flee the houses just to survive. All of these issues also create a lot of instability for the country itself. So even the people that are in the cities where everything should be better are also just trying to survive. And it's to the city where most of the people try to go to. And when everyone is struggling, things like segregation, bad living conditions, xenophobia, racism, misogyny, all of this just increases day by day. I can praise many things that are good, and I love it. I'm doing it, I have been doing it for a while. But if we want to see things and have an honest view of things, then we also need to talk about the bad things. In the movie, I'm not fond of the idea that magically that conflict it's gone. Because in reality, often not, family issues happen at the same time that country issues happen. And there is no magic that's gonna solve those issues if we don't confront them and if we're not honest about those conflicts. No amount of good music and nice food is going to solve those issues. Yes, it can be hard to realize that your country is not perfect. That where you thought when you imagine yourself you were going to stay for the rest of your life, it's not a place you can stay. It can be devastating to realize that love is not always unconditional, but sometimes it's by actually seeing these things that we can do and be better. I know it's a movie. It's a Disney movie. The ending is as Disney as it can get. I know that. And if you have that ending, I love that for you. That's great. If you don't, that's alright. There is no actual picture perfect ending. That doesn't exist. And sometimes just being alright, just being, that's marvelous. Be like caterpillars. It's a journey to go through to grow. Sometimes where we are, a bit messy. Sometimes we are surrounded by messy caterpillars. But, like I said, I do believe there is hope. There is hope to fly away and find a better place. And there is also hope to see things as they are, so we can actually fix them. I just think that not everything is an encanto. But that's okay. Almost forgot the outro. Anyway, if you have time, sure, watch the movie. It was fun. Bye.